Okay, hopefully that wasn't too stressful. Think about that one positive word that you said about yourself. And if this part was hard for you, don't panic. We're going to spend some time out of class on that discovery phase, that first D in the 4D cycle. It's okay if you, at this very moment, have a hard time talking about yourself. However, it's going to be vital that you learn to at least talk about what key experiences made you into the person that you are. At this point in the semester, and probably through high school, you've probably started to notice which subjects, for example, or what kind of school projects or what kind of activities really interest you. And my guess would be that when you think about the kind of work that you want to do after college is over, you're probably hoping for a kind of career that overlaps with those interests, your skills, and your values. But do you know what those interests, skills, and values are? And more importantly, or just as importantly, can you talk to other people about them? Kate Brooks is the director of the Career Center at Vanderbilt University, and she wrote a book that I really, really like called You Majored in What? She has a degree from WVU, by the way, as well as some other universities. But she helped to discover, or developed rather, a discovery tool called the Wandering Map. Now, that sounds a little bit like a contradiction in terms, right? After all, a map should tell you where to go. You can wander around on your own without a map. But here's the thing about the wandering map tool that I really like. If you sort of let your mind wander about the parts of your life that you find most rewarding or were the most influential on your life, and as well as those times when you're really just in the zone, things that you just really like, whether it's an activity or an object or a place, just keep track of those things and look at them. And I believe that if you look hard enough, patterns will start to emerge that will help both of us uncover those interests, skills, and values, the things that really matter to you. Let's listen to Kate Brooks for just a second, and she'll talk about that wandering map tool.
The Career Center can be a source of anxiety, quite frankly. It can be the place nobody wants to go to because it makes them think about things they'd rather not think about. We don't want to be that. We want to be the center that says, you belong here. Our students belong in this center. We are here to help you every step of the way of the process, whether you know exactly what you want to do or whether you're considering 20 different careers or whether you haven't even really thought about it yet. So the concept of wandering to me is actually very focused. It isn't lost the way it sounds. And my Wise Wandering system starts with a map of your life where you analyze all the things you've done. And then you also create another map called a possible lives map, which is all the things you might want to do. And then we start looking for what are the threads and the themes that show up in both places. What are the things you've done all your life naturally without even thinking about it? And what are the careers you're thinking about? And how might they use those very same elements or factors of your life? So when we analyze this wandering map, we don't worry about did I do something when I was 5 years old or did I do it yesterday? Because each area is just as important. And you may discover that because your dad taught you to play chess at age 4, you are now this amazing strategic thinker who can now go into a consulting firm. So after we've done the wandering map and after we've done the possible lives, now we have to figure out where are you in this process. And as I look at it, there are 3 places that you can be. You can be what I call a probable seeker, and that means somebody who pretty much knows what they want to do. I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor. And we can then help you plan the path accordingly based on where you are now and where you want to be. The next type is what I call a possible seeker, and that's where a lot of liberal arts students are, in the sense that it's not that they don't know what they want to do. There's 10 different things they want to do. They have all these different possible lives they're thinking about. So with my students who are possible thinkers, we actually create the paths to 3, 4, maybe even 5 different careers. And as we're creating those paths and looking at what they need to do to get there, I find that energy starts to kick in. And it's either good energy, I'm now excited about this path, or it's negative energy, I thought this was going to be interesting, I'm already bored. So by moving towards those different paths, we can figure out which ones are going to work and which ones aren't. The third type of seeker you can be is what I call an intention seeker. And that's somebody who just really doesn't have a clue yet. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. They may say things like, I want to work with people, or I want to work in business, or I want to take a year off, Well, now we don't know what that's going to look like exactly. So that's a lot harder to plan. So we really have to start honing in on what does that mean. One of the things
So we'll interrupt you there, but think about the second part of what you talked about there. What kind of seeker are you? Are you a probable seeker? Are you somebody that already knows what they want to do? Lots of people are like that. Are you a possible seeker who has lots of options in front of you and you're not exactly sure what you want to do with your degree from the College of Media yet? This works for them as well. Or are you an intention seeker? And I want to make sure that it's clear that's what she said. She didn't say attention seeker there. She said intention seeker. Are you looking for what your intentions will be, and you just don't know? The cool thing about the wandering map system is that I believe it works equally well for you no matter what kind of person you are. But to get to that, let's think about the last kind of major event in your life. My guess would be either the graduation of high school or the transition to being a WVU freshman. That's a major, major event, and it's a good time to be reflective. The thing that I think about is my own kids went to a bunch of graduation parties at the end of the school year, and at a lot of those parties, there were photo boards that had pictures of kind of the key moments through the graduate's life, or maybe there was a scrapbook that included the same kind of information, or maybe a slideshow. If you went to a graduation party like that, or if you had something like this at your own party, think about what those pictures or those snapshots about the big events in your life were, or even some of the small events that were kind of important to you. If you didn't have that, it's okay. But apply the same kind of thought to it. What are the things that were major events in your life? And these don't all have to be huge successes. In fact, some of them could be setbacks that you've overcome, or things that caused you difficulty or caused you to reevaluate the way you were living your life. That's okay. Those things are just as important as the big kind of successful aha moments where you discover what it is that you want to do with the rest of your life. Again, we're in that discovery phase. So let's see what this looks like on a wandering map. There's one in your handout if you're having a hard time seeing the one on the screen, and I realize that this graphic is kind of small. But I'll describe it for you, and then you'll be able to look at it in your handout as well. So in the center of this wandering map, we see a person named Bill. And around Bill, we see the results of a brainstorming session about the key moments in his life. Some of these things may seem to be unrelated when you take them by themselves. For example, I'll pick 3 of these bubbles that are on this page. He didn't enjoy his job working in fast food. He took a creative writing class one time, and he likes kayaking. Okay, these are all really nice things to know, but what's the point? Fair question. I think once you've dumped all of these things out on paper, kind of like when you pour out all the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle before you put them together, you can start to look at them for ways that they fit together and linkages between two things that may not have a really obvious connection. For example, you'll see on Bill's example here that 2 of his circles related to writing. So there's a connection. The fact that he played basketball and took 8 years of piano lessons, there's a connection there because both required discipline. That he'd had 2 jobs, the one in fast food and the second one at his dad's law firm that he did not like. That's an example of one of those setbacks that could be really informative. These are 2 kinds of jobs he knows he doesn't want to do. By using your imagination and identifying these connections and looking actively for patterns, you can start to discover what you're good at and what really matters to you. By uncovering the fact, for example, that Bill is a disciplined risk taker, that's the kayaking part of it, right, who has organizational experience, shows 3 clear strengths upon which he can start to build a career plan. And when you think about it, telling somebody that you took piano lessons, that you like to kayak, and that you have some organizational experience doesn't really say a clear whole lot about you. However, if you look at what the core kind of skills were that got you through those things, the risk taking for kayaking, the discipline required to take piano lessons for 8 years and to be part of a basketball team, you start to see some values that are pretty important to employers and pretty impressive when you think about it. Now, I'm not saying your resume is going to be full of things like kayaking and fast food, but identifying the things that you're naturally good at is really an important first step toward being able to communicate your value or your brand to a future employer. So using the rest of this week's worksheet, you're going to make your own map outside of class. Don't worry about making it overly neat. It's a brainstorming exercise, and brainstorms are supposed to be a little bit messy. You will need, though, to turn in this assignment to your instructor for a grade. So until next time, happy mapping, and I'll see you at our next session.